I'm excited to start today what is going to be the first video in a series, all pepper season long, which is tasting all the different peppers that were growing in Blue Ridge Pepper Patch this year. So these are peppers that you'll be able to buy from us, either in variety boxes or bulk or locally at farmers markets if you're in the area. And we're growing over 80 different varieties this year. Some of them we're just growing a few plants. Some of them we're growing a lot, so we have larger quantities of the peppers. Some are things that we've grown before, like Carolina Reaper and Orange Habanero. Some are new, like all three of the varieties I'm going to try today. So the peppers are just starting to trickle in. Some early risers, early ripeners. The majority of our production should be ready more like September, late August. So we're going to try today 3 different peppers that are kind of come out a little early. First is the Mohawk pepper, which should be a pretty low heat. It's kind of closely related to the bell pepper. It's a smaller orange ripening pepper. Should be kind of sweeter. I'm also going to try the Gochujang King, which is the pepper or a related pepper that you would get that would make the gochujang paste that you might be familiar with seeing in Korean cuisine. So this is the King variety, which I'm guessing is slightly larger than the regular gochujang. The last one, which should be a little hotter, is the white Thai pepper. So I've picked this one on the white stage. They can be left to ripen even longer and picked in the red stage, but they're so cool. To this white, creamy, yellow, kind of cream color to the pepper. It's not something you see very often. So we're gonna give it a try in the white stage, and then maybe later in another video, I'll give it a try in the red stage. Okay, so first up is this Mohawk pepper. Now, it's a little on the smaller end. A lot of the other ones that I've harvested recently were larger, pretty much about twice the size. And those actually went into a CSA box at the incubator farm where we farm. But since this one was so small, I decided to keep this one and give it a try for the video. But normally they will be a little larger. And like I said, this should have very little, if any, heat, really. Ooh, very strong smell. It's really closely related to bell pepper. If you were to harvest a bell pepper in the orange or the red phase. Let's see if it has any heat. A tiny bit of underlying smokiness, not in the same way an orange habanero would be smoky, but in comparison to a bell pepper. A little bit more tart, a little, I don't want to say sourness, but it has a very slightly different flavor than bell pepper. This could be a really good substitute in salsa instead of bell pepper, but we're really not getting a whole lot of heat out of this. Let's move on to the gochujang. Now I expect the heat to go up for this for sure. And these ones are, they're kind of thinner walled. And again, we harvested a few for the CSA box at the incubator farm. And these ones have been on the plant a little extra long. So these are really ripe. I expect these to be the maximum heat that you're gonna get. The ends, the tips are actually starting to dry up a little bit. So I could see this being, I can see why this is a pepper used for paste. Dry really well, grind it into a paste, add the oil. It makes sense. So let's get a piece from the top where it's not quite so dry. The last time I had a gochujang sauce at a restaurant, it was pretty spicy. I don't keep that paste or gochujang sauce in the house personally, but I might start after I eat this pepper. Not as hot as I expected. I'm wondering if the King variety, maybe in the larger size, also has less heat. There's definitely some there, but not as hot as gochujang pastes that I've had. Whether or not other peppers are included in that, I'm not sure. So after I was done filming, it occurred to me that these peppers were sitting on the plant a lot longer, that a lot of the capsaicin may have started to kind of drip down to the bottom. And sure enough, when I ate the bottom, got a lot more heat. Not as much as the next pepper that we're gonna do, but I think when these are a little fresher and not as dried out, the heat is probably more evenly distributed in the membrane like expected. Let's cut this in half lengthwise and see what we got inside. It could also be too, the earlier peppers aren't quite as hot because the capsaicin kind of develops more when there's a lot of heat, when the plants are stressed. And of course, early in the season, there's not as much heat stress. So you have very thin walled, not a lot of membrane. This is a really good pepper for drying. I would also encourage using fresh peppers in Korean recipes if you do any Korean cuisine, either in addition to or instead of the paste or the sauce. It can really provide an interesting difference to set your dish apart. Let me try just a little bit more. The taste was very cayenne-like, but also fruity. It's definitely a pepper I think that is better cooked. It's not something you would want to chop up and put into a salsa. The thin-walled, but it's also a little more fibrous. So it's definitely something you want to put in a cooked dish. Moving on to this white Thai. The white color of peppers, when they're white in the ripe phase, they tend to be very floral, very grassy, very perfumey. I'm thinking of a pepper we grew last year, the snow white chili, which came on the plant green and ripened to the white. The white Thai, however, comes on the plant white and then eventually kind of will ripen to it like a reddish hue. So this is really productive at a very small plant. So I imagine if you're looking to think about maybe growing this would be a great one for containers. You get a lot of plants. It has the visual interest. Let's see how it tastes. I'm gonna go smaller bite. I'm kind of scared. Now there's heat. After these first two, I kind of knew that should be hotter, but I wasn't expecting it. I mean, I've definitely had hotter peppers, but it's early in the season and I was just not ready for that. Especially after kind of expecting the gochujang to be a bit more spicy. Whew. Man, and this white Thai is pretty on the low end for the varieties of peppers we're growing. We have 7-Pot Primo, Chocolate Primatali, Carolina Reaper, Dragon's Breath. I gotta build some tolerance before I get to that phase. I kind of let myself slip over the winter. If you've had fresh hot peppers, you know that it's a completely different experience than hot sauces. I'm always eating hot sauces, but it's never quite the same as biting into fresh capsaicin right out of a fresh pepper. It just hits you a little stronger. So the flavor is kind of as expected. Not quite as floral as I thought that it might be. Just this color reminds me of the snow white chilies we grew last year. Those were very floral, very grassy. This is a little more standard Thai flavor, but a little brighter, if that makes sense. I'm not sure at the moment if that's because it's on the unripe white phase, or if I pick it a little later, if that sweetness is going to develop and it's going to mellow out. This is a very bright pepper. I need to give it another bite to talk about the flavor, but I know the heat's going to get me. Also kind of reminiscent of a green jalapeno. There's some of those underlying kind of underripe notes in there. Jalapenos, if you don't already know, they ripen to a red. We normally pick them green and they're sold and eaten green, but that's not their final form. This is really good. I really like this. I think this would be really good to use if you're making Thai food, especially if you're going to do like a green or a yellow coconut curry dish instead of the red. Kind of use these peppers to sneak them in there and don't upset the color balance of like a yellow curry. I really enjoy making kind of cheating Thai food. Cook up some meat, steam some vegetables, stir in half a jar of that curry paste, cook it a little bit more, and then add an entire can of coconut milk. Not the low-fat coconut milk, that's dumb. It's just coconut milk cut with water. Don't do it. If you're gonna get coconut milk, get coconut milk. Serve it over jasmine rice. It's a great kind of cheating Thai food. When you can't make it out to the restaurant, and this would be really great in any of the curry dishes, coconut curry dishes. So this is just the beginning of many more videos. Like I said, over 70 varieties. That's a lot of videos. Uncle Napalm's gonna join me for some, especially the super hots. So definitely subscribe to notifications. Check out our Instagram to see more pictures of the peppers as we're growing. I look forward to a long and plentiful pepper season with you. Thanks for joining me on this and future spicy adventures. Holy crap, that Thai pepper was hot. I was not ready for that.